Welcome back. Welcome back to the Connected Teamwork Summit. I'm Hilke Farber. I'm here today with Christine Linde. Christine, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Helki?
I am good. I'm so grateful you're here. We're going to talk more in a second about Christine. But before we do that, I want to take a brief moment to reflect on the beginning of the day today and the learnings we've had, thinking about the first four team defining moments, the white belt moments, we call them. And we heard from Carson about how important it is to appreciate each other, to help each other see each other. We talked about how Urban was talking about when we set goals, if they're authentic, they really help to get us out of our limitations. They help us to get through our limitations by being focused on our goals. And I loved what Matt told us about how setting a context, a higher purpose creates space for more authenticity, and how that these things feed off each other. And then Vinyash's lovely stories about gazelles and Amazon trees that share more about, that talk more about how do we actually need to stay grounded and grow deep roots before we extend, so that we can actually be uh, of true service and true service. We played the game, and now we're going to look at the last two moments for the day that we're going to look at. And the first one is group reflection and learning with Christine Linde. And Christine, I know Christine about half a year, I think now. We had once coffee, our tea together in Scottsdale. Christine is the global marketing director of Microsoft Business Group at Evidence. He's responsible for developing and executing marketing strategy for Evidence Microsoft Solutions. He has over 20 years of experience in marketing, communications, and business development. And she is very passionate about innovation, purposefulness, satisfaction, customer satisfaction, social impact, and loves travel and yoga and balance. I read about that. So, and I know Christine is somebody who is just deeply kind, very focused on being truthful, being here, and making choices that are authentic rather than going with the maelstrom of busyness that seems to overwhelm our world very easily. So, what not a great topic than to talk about with you than group reflection, Christine. So, yeah, let's dive in. Let's dive
Let's do
in.
it.
Um, but my first question to you is, what can you say to us about the value of group reflection and how that helps with building connectedness in teams?
Yeah, I think I'll start off by talking about how challenging it is to get to group reflection.
Mm,
I think if I think if everyone on this call has a life that's similar to mine, you find that we all have an amazing amount of work that we have to do.
mm,
We have the tendency to really only look forward. Once we've completed something, we don't typically take the time to sit back, ponder, and reflect about what have we done, right? Because we're so focused and concerned about the things that are ahead of us that we have to take care of, and the future is important, but learning from the past has an incredible amount of value.
right.
So I've had to be very intentional about creating kind of milestone moments
Mm,
um, throughout a given period of time. And, certainly, with various projects, they have different start times and stop times. But what I do on a regular basis is every 6 months, I do take a moment to stop and create a summary of everything that has been done in the
mm,
previous 6 months.
mm,
And I gather together my team or virtual team members, people that aren't in my direct team to review it, reflect on it. And this does a couple of things. One is we pat ourselves on our backs for a job well done, right?
Mhm.
Let's celebrate those successes, but also let's talk about the things that didn't work and what was that about? What things and what elements occurred so that we weren't able to meet certain objectives or deliver certain projects,
Right.
and really listen and get feedback about what those things were. And it's a powerful exercise to go through, because it basically gives you, intelligence around what we could be doing better, and what are the things that other people think would help to bring about change, to overcome obstacles and hurdles and things that we haven't been able to accomplish in the past. So that's something at least every 6 months.
Great.
Take the time to do that.
Great. I love that discipline. The question I have is, you talked a little about your life, like how busy life can be, and I wonder how you personally do reflection, how Christine does reflection with Christine.
With Christine, Christine loves yoga. Christine loves meditation. I really, I work from home, right? I have a background going on here, but my kitchen is directly behind me. My dog is sleeping to my right. I work in a global company. There are people that are working at any given time of day. So I have to be very mindful about creating boundaries for myself. The time that I start working, the time that I stop working, and when I stop working, what do I do with that time? So I find time for meditation. I go for walks. I spend time with my family and my friends. Those are the things that, put the energy back into me, so that when I go back into my career life, I have something to draw upon. And so absolutely, really being intentional about creating those elements of my life, and looking at myself as a whole person, right? Not just a machine that is there to work, but a human being that,
Yes.
Do those passion things that I love to do.
And so, have you always been like this, or did you learn this along the way somehow?
Absolutely. I was not always like this. No, not at all. I have a 5 in front of the age, the number of my age at this point. So absolutely not. No, this is something trial and error over time, right? Putting too much of myself into things that I thought were of the utmost priority. And being a very driven person, definitely getting to points in time where I was falling down because I wasn't giving back to myself.
Yeah.
And, just really just becoming more aware, as I've evolved and changed over time, to learn that, by trial and error, that if you don't carve out time for yourself, if you don't set up appropriate boundaries, and if you're not clear on what it is that brings you joy and peace, then you won't find joy and peace. You've got to understand what does that for you. And what does that for me are the things that I mentioned, meditating, yoga. I love to sing. My family and friends are incredibly important to me. Traveling, those are the things that put gas back into my tank and keep me connected with myself.
Well said. And very clear how you speak about it. Question is, what happens, or how do you notice that your tank is low?
Ooh. When I start feeling anxiety, when I start feeling fear, when I am easy to anger, those are the times when I'm like, okay, Christine, time to unplug, time to step away, take a breath, put things into perspective, and realize that that there's more to life than this problem, right? Put these situations into perspective, and realize that the only constant is change. The thing that is annoying me in this moment will be a distant memory at some point in the future.
Yeah.
So just put it all into perspective.
Put things in perspective and realize that this problem will be a distant memory at some point. That is very beautiful, very beautifully said. So how do you instill that, or how do you instill that discipline or that orientation of self-care and listening and keeping a gauge on the tank in your team or the people you work with?
Yeah, almost every day, right? I'm a connected person. Whether you are a friend of mine because we met through some other method, or whether you're a friend of mine because we work together, I want to know people. I like to sit back and listen, right? And to me, that's the best thing that I can do for people who work on my team, or people who are part of the organization that that don't report to me. I think I've become known as someone that you can bounce your ideas off of. If you have a frustration, you can come to me. I'll listen. I will not judge, but I'll also try to help put things into perspective and help to come up with ideas of what can be done to resolve an issue. Because we all run into issues every single day. And I had a conversation with one of my coworkers just the other day who was very worked up and upset. And I basically just said, take a deep breath for a minute, right? Like, get grounded back inside of yourself and realize that you're concerned. You're coming out of a place of fear, and that isn't going to serve you. So take a minute and understand that you've done everything that you possibly can to address this issue. And if someone is coming to you and saying that's not enough, then that's the disconnect, not your effort, not your intelligence, not what you've brought to the table. The disconnect is that you're being asked to do something that may not be possible. And it's okay to say that, right? To anyone.
Yes. Very liberating, very liberating. We're going to take a short break in a moment. And after the break, I want to dive a little bit more with you, Christine, in this topic of fear and how you reflect on fear with your team or with yourself, and what that does and how you work with that. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's take a short break. We're talking to Christine Linde, who is a global marketing director at Eviden, and also a spectacular human being who is tremendously purposeful and reflective, as we can already see from this part of the conversation. And thank you, Christine, and thank you for listening, everyone. So fear, group reflection, fear and group reflection. How do you bring up the topic of fear, if at all, with others?
Oh gosh, I talk about it all the time. I mean, we all have it, right? It's not a topic that should be off the table to discuss. And I think it's rampant. I think the heart of team disconnection or interpersonal disconnection is rooted in fear. People are worried about failing. They're worried about being blamed for a failure. And, you know, in those moments, people go into a reactive state and a self-protective state, which can be completely counterproductive to, you know, the positive outcomes that we're all looking to drive. So, you know, they either react and lash out, or they shut down. That just leads to a complete communication breakdown. So, you know, what I try to do to resolve those issues is listen. You know, if I see that someone is shutting down, it may not even be in a conversation that I'm experiencing this. You know, you see emails, you see instant messages. There's a ton of different ways to become aware that a situation is breaking down. As a leader, whether you are a leader of a team because you have the title of a leader, or you are part of a team and you want to exhibit leadership behavior, your opportunity is to insert yourself into a situation and become a change agent and try to help. So, you know, I seek to understand first, because I think we all think we know what's going on in any given situation. You probably have an idea, but you may not know the whole story. So, you know, really seeking to understand, asking clarifying questions, and just providing support, creating a safe space for people to express themselves and to give you the context of the issue. And then not making hasty or reactive decisions in that moment. You know, let me sit on it for a minute. You know, we all try to work at this frenetic pace. As soon as I give an answer to this, then I can move on, and I can get on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But to me, slowing down, taking a breath, and sitting on it for a minute, usually the right idea or the right solution comes in that moment. Or even just providing space for someone to express themselves, and then they come up with their own resolution to the issue. They just needed someone to be there, to be a mirror for them to talk it out. So, you know, I want to maintain engagement until there is a resolution that we can come to in some way, shape, or form. And it may not look exactly the way that we thought it should look, but there is always some way to get to a resolution. And, you know, then, you know, taking a moment and learning from those situations and realizing what went well, what didn't, and, you know, refining how you approach things moving forward based on the history and what you've learned from your previous experiences.
I imagine working with you, Christine, and knowing that you know that your intention is that we will work it out. We will work it out, even if the answer is not obvious in this moment, even if I or you or both of us feel reactive at the moment. I will work this out with you. And to me, that gives such a psychological safety, that creates such connectedness, and also invites me to actually be open, to reflect what's going on with me, you know, and get to the root cause, so I don't have to fabricate myself into some kind of solution. No.
And it's a ripple effect. You know, when somebody has someone treat them with that care, with that empathy, with providing a safe space, they then see that it's possible and maybe take that on as something that they want to do and to pass along, right? It's kindness and empathy in business, I think, is a resource that is undervalued because it really is. It's it's the key to finding resolution to any issue, is just understanding, empathy, creating safe space.
Great. So this kindness, gentleness, compassion is an underused resource and creates so much space for creativity and learning and all these things that are so important. How did you learn about this?
I think initially I think it came from my mother. My mother is an incredibly kind, empathetic, giving person. So I've had a female archetype to learn from. But I don't know, at my core, what I've learned is, because I've tried it the other way. Early in my career, I thought, okay, as a woman in business, I have to be strong. I have to be assertive. I have to be. Trying things in that way and realizing how spectacularly they failed and how terrible I felt about it. And then slowly building the confidence inside of myself to say, I'm going to do it the way that it feels right to me. And let's see how that goes. And since I have embraced that, I've been much more successful and happy, right? I'm happy with the balance of my life, because I'm acting from intention of who I am at the core. And who I am at the core is somebody who does not want to cause pain, doesn't want to inflict injury. But also I'm an analytical person. I love projects. I love getting things done. So it's not just all, sunshines, rainbows, and hugs. Right. I do like getting work product and result and being creative and infusing that into my work. But there does have to be a balance in it. Right. There does need to be, the soft skills and then the execution skills.
Absolutely. What would you say to somebody who may feel reactive at the moment, may feel in this place of, I'm attacked, being attacked by whatever reason, colleague, vastness of the challenge that I have? And what would you say to a person that may have the thought, well, kindness is just too risky?
Yeah. I think in those moments, and in fact, I had a conversation very similar to this very, very recently. And I didn't approach it as much from the kindness perspective, but from the present the issue, right? To the person that is putting you on the spot. Present the issue, talk about what it is that they're asking you to do, what you've done to try and get that result in exactly the way that they're asking for it, in the time frame that they're asking for it, and then outline what you have done, and then outline what you need in addition to be able to get to that end point. Because it's not that you haven't done anything, you have. There are things standing in the way that are outside of your control. And so now it's your turn to ask for the support that you need to be able to get to that end goal. And what can they do to support you with that? It creates a dialogue instead of being reactive and just saying, this is a ridiculous ask and no one should ask this of me. And how dare you? You already know all of the issues that we face as an organization, blah, blah, blah. That's not going to get us anywhere. What's going to get us somewhere is ask for what you need. Just ask.
Ask for what you need. Very clear. Very clear. Ask for what you need. That's practicing self-kindness in a way. That's what you're talking about, like self-kindness, but also not being wishy-washy about it, saying, no, actually, we have things to do, and being kind. And like Brene Brown likes to say, being clear is kind. I love that sort of sense of like, okay, let's just actually focus on what we need to focus on to actually make progress.
Right. Because we're all in some sort of relationship right? I mean, especially in work, right? Is the work situation right for you, right? There's a give and a get. If all you're doing is giving, you're not getting, that's not kind either. And that's not kind to yourself. So, in those moments, ask for what you need. And if you continue to not get it, maybe it's not the right relationship for you.
Right. That's that very, very helpful. Very helpful. Christine, we are almost getting towards the final bits of our conversation. Maybe a practical tip if you think about somebody where group reflection or self-reflection may not be their go-to yet. What would you say to them as a practical tip to get going?
Put it in your calendar, right? Like carve out the time. I think the reason that most people don't do self-reflection is because they don't set aside space to do it. Right. My own personal example is that, I do carve out time in my calendar, even throughout my week, to do specific activities that I know I need to do. And self-reflection or group reflection is something that if you want to do it, you're going to have to dedicate time to it. So put it into your calendar and carve out that time. And if you don't know where to start, just start brainstorming, right? Just, what you're focused on, what the objectives are that you're driving to. How do you put a structure around it to get to a place where you can evaluate how things are going? Give yourself a health score for, how things are going, and and celebrate those successes, really do, but also take the time to look at the things that aren't working and start breaking down those issues into their components and start coming up with bright ideas of how you could fix it.
Wonderful. I've so enjoyed our conversation. As always, Christine, it's always a joy to speak with you. Thank you for the blessing of your perspective. That sentence, kindness and compassion is an underutilized asset, will stick with me amongst many other things that you shared today. And carve out time to spend time with you. And if you don't get what you want, ask for it. Go ask for it. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Christine. Really appreciate you being here today. And for everybody listening, thank you for participating in this part of our Connected Teamwork Summit. We've been talking to Christine Linde, who's a Group Director, Global Marketing Director of Microsoft Business Group at Eviden. And we've been talking about the team-defining moment of group reflection and learning. Next, we will talk about how do we actually make decisions? How do we make decisions and stay connected? Thank you so much, Christine. Thank you, everyone, and see you after the break.